Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 3, the Old World Beta. Now, this mod is probably the best mod that I've played in a Total War game for a very long time. In fact, I would say it's probably the best mod that I've played since 3rd Age Total War. To be clear, we have had mods that do affect campaigns. We have had racial overhauls, but it has always felt more limited, in some ways very gimmicky with quite a lot of these mods. Don't get me wrong, some things like the Warband upgrade mod and all those kind of things are mods that I consider essential, but there has never been a mod that has changed the campaign experience as much as this one does since those days of Medieval 2. The reason behind that is it became very difficult, or if not outright impossible, for quite a few years for modders to be able to change the campaign map. So there was a limit on what they could do. That has changed as of late, and over the last couple of years we've started seeing more and more. So we saw a Korea mod for Shogun 2, we've seen certain campaign mods starting to appear for Attila and so on and so forth, and now we get a mod like this, the Old World mod. So what does this mod do? Well, the simplest way for me to explain it, imagine the map of Warhammer 1 in Warhammer 3, but far larger than the map of Warhammer 1 was. So you've got kind of the same focus of the maps. You've got the Empire, you've got Norska, you've got the Badlands, you've got Bretonia, you've got Estalia, you've got Tylea, Skavenblight, and all that. But with a lot more regions, with a lot more factions, and with a lot more interesting things happening on this campaign map. But it's not just the size of it. You know, making something really large, I understand there's a significant portion of the community that wants something that's really large. Like, there are people who would like the entire world and for it to be significantly larger. But that's not really what sells this mod, as far as I'm concerned. I'm really looking forward to the full release of this mod. I've been playing campaigns, like I played the campaign as Lewin, I played the campaign as Karl Franz, Balthazar Gelt, played the campaign as Belegar, which I've been posting, so on and so forth. And now this campaign turned 26 as Boris Ursus. See, it's not just the fact that it's a large map, because making something that's huge, that's not necessarily the greatest thing in the world. What is important is how this map significantly improves the gameplay that you have to deal with as a player. Now, one of the things I've talked about in a recent video is how map density can really affect the gameplay in a negative way when we're looking at Mortal Empires, because settlements are too close to one another in Immortal Empire. So you're doing a lot of settlement hopping in Immortal Empires. Well, in this map, looking at Altdorf, in this particular map, a lot of settlements are 2 turns, if not more, far apart from each other. And that is significant, because it means you will encounter more field battles. It means you will fight less sieges. It means you'll find less settlement battles. It means a lot of the frustrations that you have with regards to, say, for instance, auto-resolve in every minor settlement inflicting significant casualties on you, or the constant sieges in a game, they're less of an issue just because you have less of them to deal with. And that is really the selling point, I think, of this particular mod. It leads to a better campaign experience just overall. It forces you as a player to make different kinds of decisions, far different kinds of decisions than you do in the base game. Because in the base game, you can take a lot of territory very quickly, you can expand very aggressively, and you can push yourself to bankruptcy, more or less, because you know you're going to fight the battle every single turn. So as long as you can fight the battle every turn and that can pay for your income, you can keep going. Now, to be sure, you can fight the battle every single turn in this mod as well. Depends on how many armies you have and what you're dealing with, but it's obviously going to be a very different situation. Also, because the map is far larger than you might encounter otherwise, you have to make different kinds of decisions that you do in the campaign. So for instance, over here, I'm playing a campaign as Boris Ursus, and I am over here dealing with Kairos, but at the same time, I've got the second army over here that's moving, maybe not going to be dealing with Azak, but maybe just wiping out these Norskans over here. But then I've got Archeon coming in over here. He's only at war with me, and he's going after my starting settlement. And that is a problem, and I don't have the resources to deal with him. So I do have to make the very different kinds of decisions. Just being extremely aggressive as it works currently in Immortal Empires is not really workable over here anymore. And this mod, just because of its map design, because of the way settlements are spread apart, this mod helps break the horrible balance that currently exists in Immortal Empire. So, for instance, I played quite a bit of the dwarves in this map, and it was a significantly better experience than it was in the base game. Sure, there are still issues. Now, the mod will not fix the racial issues that certain races do have, so Kislev is still going to be Kislev. It's still going to be a bad race. There's no changing that. The Empire is still going to have significant problems. But another thing to mention about this mod is I think the way things have been designed, and I'm not quite sure what the design intent is from the people working on it. I would really like to hear their thoughts on the subject, what they're thinking about. But when I'm looking at this mod, it does lead to just more interesting campaign situations. And on top of that, it also seems to be very mod friendly. So you can take a lot of the mods we currently have, like Lord packs, unit packs, racial reworks, and you can start the campaign in this mod and things will work just fine. Now, on top of that, it's very cleverly designed. And the final thing to mention here is that it's very cleverly designed to lead to interesting campaign situations. So consider my situation. I started as Boris Ursus. I had Oxyatl to the north, and I might have teamed up with him had I made different decisions. Instead, because the decisions I made, he ended up getting wiped out because Archeon and Azazel just ended up annihilating him in this particular campaign. Unfortunate, but that's on me, really. Because I started over here in Forest of Ice. I started a war with the Sarl, so I could have looped in over here, dealt with Sigvald, go over here and help Oxyatl and make agreements with Oxyatl and Grombrindle. Isn't it an awesome idea of a campaign experience where you have Grombrindle, Boris Ursus, and Oxyatl just teaming up to beat the shit out of Chaos? Yes, the badasses are in town and they're grouping together. That is an awesome idea of a campaign in itself. And then with, if you're playing Chaos, you've got Archeon, you've got Kolic, you've got Skarbrand, you've got Sigvald, you've got Azazel. All in the same vicinity, same kind of similar area, teaming up as well. So you've got the forces of Chaos really fighting some of the most badass slithering lords of the forces of Order in this particular campaign area. It leads to an awesome campaign experience. And that's just this one corner of the campaign map. It doesn't end there. There's so much more interesting stuff that does happen. Like you've got Skarbrand over here right next to Nakari. And you've got Lokir as well in this vicinity. And you've also got Silos. The Empire. Because the Empire is so much spread out, then, for instance, while Hochland will probably inevitably fall regardless to Festus, you don't have the same kind of level of frustration as you do in the base game where you're constantly running around like a headless chicken trying to keep the Imperial authority out. You have more time, it's more spread out, and as I said, it can work very well with other mods. And then there's other experience. Kislev is actually Kislev. Kislev is a massive area of the campaign map right now. Like, look at all of this. This is Kislev. Like, all that you see here is Kislev. It is significant what this has to offer. Then you've got Cetra over here, like just having just conquering the Chaos Wastes. Now I'm not sure. I haven't tried playing his campaign. Generally speaking, what they did with the mod is they made it so that climate suitability, like the climate you're starting in, is something you're suitable to. So I'm not sure if Cetra has Chaos Wasteland suitability. Haven't checked that out yet. Or look at Hellpit. Imagine going in Hellpit in this, because you've got all the 9 circles of hell, like from the first circle, which is a provincial capital, all the way to the 9th circle to the lowest part of hell. Like, imagining going to deal with Front-Unclean. It's kind of fun, like, seeing the 9 circles of hell over here. Kind of wish Scale and Blight had something similar to this. But There's a lot of things to like about this mod. There's a lot of things that they've done very, very well with this particular mod, and it leads to better campaigns. It leads to better campaign experience. It makes things significantly more interesting than they were before. Like, look at Albion. You might think, oh, Albion's just an island that only has a couple of regions. Yeah, but you have a campaign situation, although this turn 26, so some factions have been wiped out, but you've got Grimgor, Manfred, Marcus. Manfred and Marcus are wiped out by Grimgor, as it should be. But you got Yambo, Malice Darkblade, Be'lakor, Nakai. Like, except Nakai and Marcus Wolfar, like, you have incredibly powerful engineering lords, and if you're playing on this island, you know you're in for a hell of a time. But if you're not playing on this island, but you're close enough, like Bretonia, like Rapans, or Loki, or other factions over here, you know whoever is going to win, and someone is going to win, is going to be an absolute nightmare. You think Grimgor is difficult to deal with in the base game? Imagine a Grimgor on a fortified island where he's defeated the other some of the most powerful legendary lords in the game, conquered the entire island, got into a ridiculously high level. He's already level 17, and then he sends in stacks upon stacks across the sea to attack you. Imagine playing a campaign as Loki in this situation. Enjoy that experience, because Grimgor is coming and he will show no mercy. And having to deal with him will be a biblical fight in of itself. I love it. Like, I love so much about this mod. There's a lot of things that do work quite well. I kind of wish climate suitability was better. So, for instance, one of the things I would comment is that Grimgor starts obviously with Wasteland being suitable, Frozen being suitable, all that. But what he doesn't have in terms of suitability is the temperate climate. So if he had temperate climate, same with Grom. I'm not sure if Grom has temperate climate, or I haven't tested him out. It takes a lot of hours to properly test out campaigns. I have hundreds of videos where I've been doing that exactly in Warhammer 3. But one of the things I would comment is that there's some limit to your potential when you're playing him yourself. When the AI is playing him, well, the AI just doesn't care. So, yeah, enjoy dealing with Grimgor in that situation. Interestingly, like, Fork starts in Belagar's position, and Belagar starts right at the doorstep of Karikay Peaks. He starts right next to Valea Sorrow, and you actually end up having the War of Karikay Peaks. In this case, it seems Skarsnik has been wiped out, and Belagar has effectively won the war and will end up annihilating everything that stands in his path. You think Belagar is difficult enough to deal with in the base game when you're playing on Legendary very hard, because he has really powerful armies, and he doesn't necessarily care about the upkeep downside. But imagine Belagar in a campaign situation like this, where not only has he taken Karikay Peaks, which in this case is this particular settlement, but he also has access to a ridiculous level of landmarks, though I'm not sure, though I don't think he's necessary. Well, he's starting to build some of them right now. Imagine Belagar with a significant amount of landmarks, and you have to dislodge him from this situation. Have fun with that. But the most important aspect about this is that one of the things to mention is one of the things I keep seeing over here as I play campaign after campaign, is like you start seeing these massive AI empires. And as a result of that, what will eventually end up happening is that you're going to end up fighting a faction that has an enormous amount of territory and is going to put up a hell of a fight against you. And that is one of the great things. Like, it's not just good, it creates a good early game situation, which is something that Mortal Empires can do. No, the way the map is designed and the way things are spread out, it will lead to powerful AI empires emerging that you will then have to deal with. So it ends up potentially being really good in the mid and late game. Like, for instance, consider Boris Ursus's campaign. You start with Forest of the Knives, and you're at war with the Sarl. So what you're really pushed to do is going over here. Now, whether or not you continue is to finish off the Sarl, or you head north to deal with Sigvald. Regardless, though, you're going to end up in a war with Archeon. You're going to encounter and Sigvald, Kairos, etc. Like, I ended up fighting Kairos. You may end up in a war with Sigvald. You're going to encounter Grumbrindle and Axiatl. As Karl Franz, you start a war with the rebels, but because of the way Reichland is spread out over here, they control this particular settlement as well. But you take this capital. That's probably the end of the Separatists. But then you have Skaven over here that you may also want to deal with. So you're being pushed east, right in front of Tarax, who is busy fighting Talabheim. And you're going to continue pushing east. Or you can go west if you want to. But the crucial thing here, the crucial aspect to understand is that what's great here is not what it's doing for the player, it's also what it's doing for the AI. Because of the territories that this gives to the AI and the kind of enemies the AI starts at war with, the AI is going to be pushed into conflict with other factions, and eventually someone will end up becoming a major empire. It leads to a far more interesting and dynamic campaign situation in Immortal Empires. It leads to more interesting opponents and allies on the campaign map. How well the AI can handle this map, that's a bit of a discussion. So far, it does seem to handle it pretty damn well, and it really shows that for all the things that people complain about with regards to the AI in Warhammer 3, one of the major problems that the game has is really the map. I also have to say that I greatly appreciate the fact that the modders make it so that Bretonnian factions start with stables, tier 1 stables. Because it's silly to start with a barracks, because the barracks produces trash. Now, if the AI wants to get the barracks, but look at Lowen Leoncoeur over here. He's got the ability of recruiting, infantry, cavalry, and damsels, and eventually he will be able to get Grail Knights and so on and so forth. That is the great aspect over here. He doesn't have artillery yet, which is certainly a downside, but he has infantry, he has archers, he has cavalry. So Lowen Leoncoeur over here, like, if you've played the base game, you might know that more often than not, when you encounter Lowen, he's probably just going to have a ton of infantry and very little cavalry that he recruits, and that's something that applies to other Bretonnian factions. Here he's going to have a lot of cavalry, a lot of archers, and quite a few infantry forces. So he's going to be a lot more difficult to tackle in this campaign situation. It is a great experience. I'm kind of curious about like what the Wood Elves start with over here. But like we can see that they have Deepwood Scout recruitment. They have Deepwood Scout, so I think that one of the things that the modders may have done, I didn't pay attention to how things were, but one of the things they might have given the Wood Elves the ranged starting structure, because like one of the things that may happen in a Wood Elf campaign is that the Wood Elves will just like recruit melee units, and well, Wood Elf melee units are pretty solid. It's really the range, power, and Treekin that makes them strong. But look at this situation. While they certainly have melee unit recruitment, they didn't start with that. They start to ranged unit recruitment, which is really the way to go, because it's the ranged units that are the most dangerous in when facing off against the Wood Elves. So they've created a situation where there's better AI empires, a better campaign dynamic, better fights, a better mid-game, late game, just because of the way that they designed the map. And that is really an incredible piece of work. And I'm looking forward to what else they have to do and how things are going to shape up going forward. Costine signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.